Melanie Quint, do you think that Scientology, or indeed any other cult, quote unquote, would have risen and become a real religion if there wasn't Christianity or other larger religions in their way? I'm wondering if they had all started at once, whether Scientology would win, as it claims to take a more scientific approach rather than the good old Bible. Maybe it would crash when people got to the top level and realized it was a crock. If you think about how Christians came to power, it was surely by using coercive control, shunning, finances, information, and death. The same tactics have been used in all the big faiths/religions. They own the lion's share of real estate, especially in the UK. They have their own schools where their doctrine is spread. Priests were sent to houses to make church attendance mandatory. You couldn't get married or buried if you didn't belong. They are also hierarchical organizations. Many of these things are in the dim and distant past, and to survive, they have had to adapt. They have had the luxury of time to be much more palatable to the ordinary people. If you apply the statement, what happens when you try to leave? Well, back in the day, you would have been murdered. Churches are still monetized, but you can get away with not paying. But is that because they already have the power and finance? I know people that pay 10% of their salary to a Christian church. If you don't think it would be Scientology, which of the newer religions do you think would have won? Would we have seen Scientology, Mormonism, and the JWs at war over hearts and minds? Maybe it would be the ones that give back to society regardless of a person's beliefs in some way. It seems that many, many people need faith and or religion in their lives, and there's nothing wrong with that either. All right, Melanie, thank you for this question. And basically, you actually kind of summed up the gist of the issue at the last sentence of your question there, right? Because the fact of the matter is that it's an empirical fact that human beings need to have some level of comfort and community and support and an idea that there is purpose and meaning to their life, and they need an external source for morality or for telling them what's right and wrong. And we do crave or look for authority figures. And why wouldn't we? We're raised with them. We come into this world with authority figures, lording over us, and it's kind of that way all through our lives. There are none of us who are, unless you go off onto some island and live by yourself, you can't escape, the social hierarchies that we create. And until you go off onto that island, by the way, you are just as dependent as everybody else on everybody else in order to survive. You never have gotten along alone, right? That's a bit of a myth. So, okay, so religion plugs into this need, this emotional need that we have, and a sort of a societal cultural need that we have, by offering lots and lots of answers to the problem of how do we organize, what should we believe, what's good and bad, what's right and wrong. There's a lot of ready-made answers in these groups, and that's why they have such appeal. You don't have to come up with your own answers. You don't even have to think about your own answers. We will give them to you. And clearly, it's not even like I'm saying this in some snide, snarky way where I'm trying to degrade everybody by saying that this is a need we have. It's just a fact. It is. So the religious solutions to these issues or problems have been the thing that we've had for most of the time that we've been around as a civilization, as a walking, talking, kind of animal here on this planet. We've been using religion as the basis for our societies, for our value sets, and for the answers to the deep, important, tough questions that really none of us know the answers to. Why are we here? Where are we going? What happens after we're gone? Is there anything that happens to us after we're gone? These are the things that religion serves us with, and these are not, these are valuable and important things. However, you'll notice that in all of this, I never use the word truth, okay? Truth has nothing to do with it. It's not a matter of we need truthful, factual answers, because clearly we don't. It's obvious we don't. I was fine with Scientology's bullshit answers for 27 years. They served me quite well. I got along really well in life for a real long time. Really well in life, quote unquote. But I did get along. I had a worldview. I had a value set. I had a acculturation within a group that accepted me and I accepted them. In other words, emotional needs and societal cultural needs were being met by this set of ideas from L. Ron Hubbard and the culture that he created around that set of ideas, which is what we call the religious organization of, or the cult organization of Scientology. You scale that up and you get the Catholic Church, and you scale it up even further and you get all of Christianity. So same questions, same needs, same way of feeding and meeting those needs. So you ask, would Scientology have won over the other religions if they hadn't gotten in the way first? Well, I have to say no, because Scientology absolutely requires technology in order for it to operate. Hubbard himself said that Scientology and some of its principles were related back to Buddhism, and there's also psychotherapy stuff in there and all kinds of mental quackery and wackery. And of course, heavy dollops of Madame Blavatsky and transcendentalism and theosophy. And there's a lot of mix into the brew called Scientology. But one of the most important things in Scientology, and one of the things that really sets it apart as different from other religious activities, is this e-meter and the technology of it. And Hubbard is crystal clear over and over again that Scientology will not work, and you cannot go up to the OT levels and make it actually even to the state of clear without an e-meter. It's just not going to happen. So that's why Scientology could never have been something that could have usurped Christianity if it had come along in year zero or something, because they didn't have any electronics yet. And you have to have that. So that kind of puts Scientology out of the running entirely. Could the story of the Jehovah's Witnesses, could the Jehovah's Witnesses have come along before Christianity? Well, no, because the Jehovah's Witnesses are based entirely on Christianity and are more of the Christianity 2.0. It's kind of the rewrite with the Book of Mormon. But it all relies on concepts and ideas and value sets and acculturation from the Christian faith. Otherwise, Mormonism is meaningless. So it does not stand apart and alone and unique. It has this whole earlier beginning, you could say, of Jesus and Christianity and that whole faith. So again, so Mormons, no, not so much. Same with JWs, right? These are cults that are offsprings or belief sets that are evolved from the base belief set of Christianity. That's why, it's big, it's huge, it's fairly simple in a lot of its ideas. In other words, it's easy to communicate to the masses. And you can get complicated and deep with Christianity and with Christian apologetics and that kind of stuff and kind of go down those rabbit holes, but most people don't care at all. They're perfectly happy to go to church on Sunday, listen to somebody tell them how to be a good person, do their best to try to follow that advice, and just kind of get through their lives with the hope and idea that maybe there's something better waiting for them after this life is over, because, this life is only what it is. And the best that this life can give you is a lot of sensation and a lot of, I guess if you have a lot of money and a lot of, power or whatever, and that's about as good as it gets here. So people aspire to more. They can imagine a much better existence. And they kind of hope that maybe that existence is a reality. And if they do the right things and say the right things, then that's their ticket into that. And why not? It all kind of comes down to Pascal's wager in a way. If all things being equal, why don't we just go ahead and say it's true on the off chance that it is, and then I get my golden ticket into heaven, right? I don't know. From all of the people I've ever talked to over the years who are believers or true believers and And if we're not getting into the extremist levels of things, the vast majority of people are not at the extreme ends. It's a bit of a standard distribution curve. Most people are in the middle. The extremists are the loud ones, but all the people in the middle are kind of like, yeah, I don't want to hear that. I'm not interested. They just want to get through their lives. So anyway, I'm kind of going on and on here, but I'm trying to make the point that while an interesting question, I don't really think anything else could have happened but what did happen. And unless there was some kind of significant change made to us or to the cultures that existed when Christianity came in, when Buddhism came up, when Islam came up. I mean, these are very culturally, if you go back to the history and origin story of these groups, it is all about the culture that they came from and the value sets and the ideas and the conflicts of those times. That's where that stuff comes out of. And so it caught fire because it was hitting a touchstone of that time, and slowly over generations grew and morphed and evolved and changed with the times as it needed to in order to continue to have appeal to a broad mass of people. And as long as something can morph and change and grow with a culture, I mean, I guarantee you, regardless of whatever book you're going to read or whatever thing you're going to find or whatever authority you subscribe to, I am 1,000% sure that if I were to send a Christian of any denomination right now back to the year 300 to where the Christians were then, and they could actually talk to each other, I think they would have hardly any common ground. Any. I mean, Christianity has changed so much over the decades, over the millennia, over the centuries, right? And most believers, again, don't care. They don't. They only care about what they're experiencing in the here and now. They don't care about what people believed back in the year 300, 1300, or 1800. It doesn't matter to them. But I find it fascinating. And I find the growth and evolution of these groups absolutely fascinating. And I wish I had the time to invest in going down the rabbit holes of Christianity and Christian apologetics, because I know there's a lot of different rabbit holes, and it's kind of fascinating stuff. But I don't really believe, as a final answer to your question, Melanie, I don't believe that things could have really worked out any other way than they did work out. Because of all the factors I've said here. And I don't know. I hope my answer here is useful or helpful or in some way entertaining. So thank you very much for asking me that, though, Melanie. I enjoy talking about that stuff.